It is a significant legal decision that has caused waves to be felt throughout the entertainment industry and the media. Justin Baldoni's lawsuits against actress Blake Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, their longtime publicist Leslie Sloan, and the New York Times have been dismissed by a federal judge. The lawsuits were filed against all of these individuals. On Monday, June 9th, the claims, which claimed a total of $650 million in damages, were dismissed in their entirety by the United States District Judge from the District of Columbia, Louis J. Lyman. The judge came to the conclusion that the allegations were constitutionally insufficient and lacked substantial factual proof, and as a result, he dismissed all of the lawsuits in their entirety. This conflict in the courtroom is centered on a complicated disagreement that incorporates allegations of sexual harassment, retaliation, and the aftermath of media reporting. This disagreement constitutes the core of the conflict. Blake Lively initially filed a complaint in December 2024, saying that Baldoni, who was directing and starring in the planned film rendition of It Ends With Us, had engaged in inappropriate behavior and retaliated against her. Lively's complaint was also accompanied by a statement that Baldoni had targeted her. The complaint that Lively initially submitted was received. As a consequence of the complaint and the media attention that surrounds it at the same time, a legal commotion arose. Following this, Baldoni and his production company, the Wayfarer Parties, filed a lawsuit against Lively, Reynolds, Sloan, and the New York Times, accusing them of staging a smear campaign, extortion, and defamation of character. The complaint was brought in reaction to the allegations made by the New York Times. His court briefs depicted the action as a necessary defense against what he perceived to be an effort to hinder his career and reputation. He believed that the litigation was required. In his argument, he stated that the action was necessary since it was. However, the court did not agree with the plaintiff. The key tenet of Baldoni's argument was dismantled by Judge Lyman in a judgment that consisted of reasons that were articulated in a clear and compelling manner and were supported by strong reasoning. He claimed that the remarks that Blake Lively attributed to other persons in her formal complaint were protected by legal privilege. This means that they cannot serve as the foundation for a defamation case in accordance with the recognized legal doctrine. Blake Lively's complaint was filed in the United States District Court for the Northern District of California. Despite the fact that Baldoni's team also claimed that Reynolds and Sloan made separate defamatory assertions and that the New York Times recklessly exacerbated those accusations, the judge came to the decision that the plaintiffs did not achieve the high legal threshold that is required for defamation. This was the conclusion that the judge reached. To be more specific, the plaintiffs did not fulfill the need to demonstrate that the defendants acted with actual malice, which might be defined as a conscious disregard for the truth. Lyman emphasized that the Wayfarer Parties did not make a reasonable accusation that Reynolds, Sloan, or the Times had significant grounds to dispute the veracity of their assertions. He stated that this was the case. When it came to the New York Times, he concurred with the publication's assertion that it had handled the matter with journalistic care and honesty all throughout the process. It was the newspaper that he supported. As a consequence of this, he dismissed the lawsuit in its entirety, but he did allow for one narrow opening. The legal team representing Baldoni has until June 23rd to amend and refile claims related to breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, as well as tortious interference with contract, if they believe that these claims can be sufficiently supported. The defendants and their legal representatives answered as swiftly as they could, and their disposition was one of joy. Blake Lively's legal team, which was represented by Ezra Hudson and Mike Gottlieb, issued a forceful statement in which they referred to the verdict as a total victory and a complete vindication. The statement was issued in response to the verdict. According to them, the action that was filed by Baldoni was a sham, and they expressed their gratitude to the court for recognizing what they claimed was an open and honest attempt to inflict retribution on those who had just spoken the truth. In addition, the fact that they want to pursue attorney's fees, punitive damages, and possibly even triple damages for what they regard to be abusive litigation on the part of Baldoni and his company is another hint that this may not be the outcome of the particular situation. Not only is this ruling the most recent event in what has become one of the most controversial judicial cases, but it is also one of the legal conflicts that is being closely observed by the entertainment industry. Lively's initial complaint is still being investigated, and she has not deviated from her accusations. This is in spite of the fact that Baldoni has repeatedly denied any and all charges of improper behavior. She recently removed 2 claims from her complaint, which were willful and negligent infliction of mental distress. Her legal team indicated that the decision was strategic and meant to concentrate the case on the most critical concerns before the trial. This was expressed in spite of the fact that she recently dismissed the claims. Even if the court has unequivocally rejected Baldoni's allegations, his legal team is today faced with a decision: whether to revise and refile some of the counts that were dismissed or to withdraw completely from that line of litigation. In other words, they are in a difficult position. At the same time as everything else is going on, the main case that concerns Lively and Baldoni is continuing according to the plan. The trial is scheduled to begin in March of 2026, and it is predicted that it will attract a significant amount of public interest. Additionally, it is expected that representatives from both sides will be required to testify during the trial. As a result of the verdict that was handed down by the court, the legal principles that pertain to defamation, journalistic privilege, and improper use of the judicial process have been given a significant amount of support. In addition to this, it brings to light the high hurdle that public figures have to pass in order to contest statements that are made during formal court proceedings and news coverage. Despite the fact that the essential problems in the first disagreement have not been decided, the last word in this high-stakes legal conflict is still more than a year away. In spite of the fact that Baldoni's attempt to change the tide of the disagreement through litigation has been mostly unsuccessful, the fundamental claims that are at issue in the dispute have not been settled. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.